The, uh, this is a video which actually gives a training on OpenSense firewall. So right now I am logging into my OpenSense firewall with user ID and password. So you everybody knows like how to configure a firewall. So those people who are actually in networking, they definitely know that how to configure this firewall. Okay, so this is an open source firewall. The firewall is actually configured in such a way that the traffic coming in inside should go through all the verification checks uh, from on the WAN interface, and traffic going out should be monitored on uh, LAN to WAN interface actually. So let's log into this firewall first, and then we will move further. So this is taking a little long time. We have to check whether this firewall is active or not. Right now, the request got timed out. It seems like there is the firewall is not reachable now. Yes, the firewall is actually not reachable. Let me check physically. Think this is reachable now on the interface. So we are actually we can log in smoothly. Yeah, this has taken some long time, but I can see this logged in. Okay, so in general, a firewall is having different interfaces actually. So we have to configure one of the interface to be in internal interface and the other interface as external interface. Okay, here in interfaces, what I have is actually a LAN interface and a WAN interface. Okay, other things are there, but uh, we can look into the uh, open VPN part and other WireGuard interfaces and all later. So right now, this firewall is having a LAN interface where the IP is 192.168.20.1, which is actually LAN, which is actually a Class C IP address, and we have set up a WAN interface uh, with the there is no public API right now configured. I have enabled DHCP on the WAN interface where my router will provide the gateway internet router will provide an IP to the IPv4 for the to the WAN interface, and automatically this will be getting a WAN IP. So I have configured WAN IP over there. Okay, so the assignment is done in such a way right now that the my LAN is having an EM1 interface, and WAN is having an EM0 interface. So EM0, EM1 are actually two physical interface which are there in the uh, are the two network ports. One is internal and other one is external. So I have just assigned this EM1 interface into the LAN and EM0 interface into the WAN. So whatever coming in, the routes coming from the LAN network will be hitting on the EM1 interface, where the IP is actually 20.1, and then it will goes to the management IP is 20.1. So same IP it will be hitting on the EM1. Okay, and then when it do all the filtering, the main function of the firewall is to do the filtering actually. Okay, so whatever coming in, my traffic coming inside the EM1 interface will be completely reviewed, and it goes through different firewall rules which are configured on the firewall part. Okay, the rule is somewhere here actually. So you can find under firewall rules, and then you go to, if you go to LAN rules, you can find different number of rules where it is actually configured for to handle different traffics which are going from internal to the external. So the first rule that is actually need to configure is a any to any deny rule, where all the traffic will be denied from inside to the outside. So that is what. Then there is a WAN rule actually. So the WAN rule is actually something like it has access to the OpenVPN port, where the OpenVPN public AP can will be a public AP will be trying to contact on the WAN interfaces. Right now we have a DHCP IP only. I'm not, and the firewall is actually operating in a route mode only, not a bridge mode. So all the traffic which are hitting on the internet router will be forwarding to the WAN IP with a you know private IP only. At this moment, I have not directly bridged 1194 port to the uh, no, I have not directly bridged the WAN interface to uh, the internet router. Okay, so this is the place where we add all the rules for LAN and WAN, and in there is other parts like when you are actually trying to configure a firewall. So there is a initial configuration that is required. So it will be like you need to configure the different gateways actually. Okay, the gateways are something like you can manually assign the gateway. Here in my case, the WAN gateway, this is the WAN gateway is active, and it is actually going towards the 21.1 subnet. That is a WAN subnet which is provided by DHCP subnet, which is provided by uh, my gateway router, internet router, and the LAN subnet is actually LAN IP is 20.1. So these are the gateways which we need to configure initially, and whatever new routes which are actually needed for communication internally, which is towards the different subnets and all, we can actually configure it with the gateway IPs and all. Okay, so I have an 8.1 gateway which is routing towards segment which I run some labs and all. And this is another lab which I have. Okay, so those gateways should be configured. So the other part, something is like I have a firewall part. Then these are the part which are actually there. And then the other part is like a VPN part where we can configure Open VPN or WildCard over here. Okay. So then, in order for this firewall LAN to we can also configure ISC DHCP server. So ISC DHCP server is such a way that 20.1 subnet will to slash 24 subnet will be configured on the LAN gateway. Such in is and the ISC DHCP server will issue a start IP to the end IP on 192.168.20.2 to 20.254 IPs and lease it to the it will act as a server and will lease it to the internal networks. So whatever people who are actually trying in the LAN or connecting to the LAN will get an IP from this pool of IP, and that is the PC or laptop will get an IP which can contact this gateway uh, and then start the communication. Here, firewall filter rules are all configured in the rule, as I said before. So initially everything will be denied, and based on configuring one by one rules one by one, this will be navigating, and this will be allowing some internal traffic to communicate outside. So initially, firewall is actually having a HTTP access or a SSL access towards the management IP. Okay, so then whatever ports which like it, if it need to communicate outside, we need to configure rules in such a way that my LAN subnet so as source and destination is actually 21.1 will can LAN subnet can reach the 21.1. Uh, it would be a public subnet if we are using bridge network, but right now it is 20.20.1 subnet can reach the 20.21 dot subnet. Even it pass through different rules and uh, give source and destination uh, like access to communicate with outsider. So if you wanted to access a Facebook page or in Instagram page, or you wanted to take some particular application to communicate inside, if the users in the LAN environment need to communicate with a for the Google server or Google Meet or whatever Teams. So if they wanted to allow access, we have to if they wanted to communicate on those applications, we have to allow particular ports to communicate outside. So this is the entire scenario of a firewall. So this is an open source firewall where you can install it in a PC where you can configure with additional LAN cards. Two LAN cards is minimum required for this one. So one LAN card, one port will be uh, it is not one port. If you can use one LAN card also, one port with minimum two ports. One ports would be internal and the other port would be external. So if you have three ports, you can configure one as a DMC segment, and if you can also put up a you know you can also put up a DMC server where you can allow internal to the DMCC communication, and or DMC can reach the internet communication through different traffic routes. So this is the minimum requirement that you need to configure a firewall. So then there is a basic NATing which are actually there. So firewall, you can go and see the NAT actually. So you can there are one-to-one NAT, outbound NAT, and port forwarding NATs. So initially, uh, there are some certain rules which are there in the FortiGate firewall that also you need to review. Okay. So then additional services are these services which are actually enabling communication from your internal subnet to the yes, from which will allow internal subnet to have a IPsec tunnel or be site to site tunnel, IPsec tunnel site to site or remote access VPN by configuring all the systems with the uh, required required parameters. So you can configure the firewall to communicate with open VPN by creating an instance, and you can also configure WireGuard in the WireGuard. Okay, so these are the basic things that you will see in a firewall. And when you go to the dashboard, you can see that all the traffic interfaces which are passing from source to the destination. So here, those traffics are the interfaces are here. WAN segment is actually giving out some traffic, and LAN is also giving out traffic outside. So that's all about the basic setup of open sense firewall. If you want to configure any OpenSense firewall, you can reach in our firm to connect, and we are available at and available to support your configuration on uh, info@infosecnetworks.com. You can also reach us on 799-4285-144. We are available on your request. Thank you so much.